Today's lesson is the most dangerous game. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
My name is Kiki.
And today we're going to talk about an American short story that was published way back in 1924 entitled The Most Dangerous Game. And this does seem to be rather dangerous if one human being is trying to hunt another one. Indeed, that can be quite dangerous. It's also kind of sick when you think about it. What kind of person would actually want to hunt another person?
Right. I think it's somebody that's just really bored. They already have everything they want in their life, and they're just looking for something different and something challenging for them.
So that's what this story is all about, and our lesson has a summary of this story. You might find it interesting. So let's get to it. Let's listen to the first part of our lesson, and then we'll come back to talk about it.
The most dangerous game. Peering into the darkness from the boat's deck, famous big game hunter Sanger Rainsford recalled the conversation he'd had earlier with his companion, Whitney. In a moment of reflection, Whitney had confessed to feeling a little guilty about their hunting trip. Rainsford, who was more practical, had countered bluntly, "The world is made up of two classes, the hunters and the huntees. Luckily, you and I are hunters." These thoughts, however, were interrupted when Rainsford accidentally fell overboard.
大家好，第一部分我们可以看到动词 peer， 它指的是凝视、盯着看或是端详。例如 I peered over Tom's shoulder to see what he was reading. 我从 Tom 的背后仔细看他在读什么。或者 Vanessa peered over the fence into her neighbor's yard. Vanessa 越过栅栏，盯着邻居的院子看。另外，这个字也可以当名词，意思是同才或是同事。例如Mark was respected by his peers in the business community. Mark 受到商界同行的尊重。又或者说 Henry gets along well with all of his peers. Henry 和他所有的同事都处得很好。接下来我们看到动词 recall， 它的意思是回想起、回忆起或是记得。举例来说 Dave couldn't recall where he had parked his car. Dave 想不起来自己把车子停在哪里了。又或者说From what I recall, Colleen's dad is a doctor. 就我所记得的 Colleen 的爸爸是个医生。再来我们看到单字 companion， 它是名词，指的是同伴、伙伴或是伴侣。例如 Judy was a great companion on my trip to 台中。Judy 是我台中之旅的好伙伴。或是 The old woman's only companions were her 3 cats. 那位老太太只有3只猫跟她作伴。接下来我们看到动词 confess， 它的意思是坦诚、公认或是忏悔。例如 Billy confessed that he stole candy from the store. Billy 坦诚他从店里偷了糖果。又或者说 I must confess that I had no idea what he was talking about. 我必须坦诚我不知道他在说什么。再来我们看到单字 counter， 它是动词，意思是反驳、驳斥或是对抗。举例来说 The politician expertly countered the journalist's arguments. 这名政治人物巧妙地反驳了记者的论点。又或者说 Chewing gum is a good way to counter the urge to smoke. 嚼口香糖是对抗抽烟欲望的好方法。另外，这个字也可以当作名词，指的是柜台。例如 George stepped up to the counter and placed his order. George 走到柜台点餐。再举一个例子Rebecca walked up to the counter and asked for help. Rebecca 走到柜台寻求协助。
Okay, so the title is The Most Dangerous Game. A game, of course, is something you play with other people. And yes, indeed, I have seen a lot of confusion regarding sports competitions and whether to use the word game or match or whatever. So if you're playing baseball, then that would be a baseball game. If you're overseas and maybe in England and you're playing football or soccer, that would be a soccer match. And then, of course, if you're playing tennis, that would would be a tennis match as well. Although they divide it into smaller games, which, you have to get to 40 before the other player does. But that's another topic here. But in this particular case, it's a game which involves hunting. A game also refers to the animals that you like to kill. Like if you go out and hunt deer or moose or whatever, then those animals would be game.
Right. And in the first part, we see peering into the darkness from the boat's deck. Famous big game hunter Sanger Rainsford recalled the conversation he'd had earlier with his companion, Whitney. So Rainsford, he was on the boat and he was looking really, really hard and really concentrating, looking into the darkness because it was so dark that he had to look really hard out of the boat and he was thinking about something. So he recalled a conversation. He was remembering a conversation that he had with his companion, his partner, Whitney, somebody that spends a lot of time with him, travel with him, and spends a lot of time with him. And in this case, big game hunter is someone that hunts big game. So big game is usually not like in North America where it's like moose and deer. Big game is when you go to Africa and they have these big animals that people like to hunt. I don't really like it, but a lot of people still think of it as something that they enjoy to do. So they hunt elephants, they hunt lions and rhinoceros. So Sanger Rainsford, in the story, he's the main character. He was a big game hunter.
Yeah, if you hunt squirrels or rabbits or raccoons or skunks or something, you're not a big game hunter. But yeah, if you hunt a lion or a tiger or maybe an elephant or something, then you are a big game hunter. And he recalled the conversation he had earlier with his companion, Whitney. So he recalled or remembered this conversation. That's what recall means, just to remember something. Somebody might ask you, do you remember what your aunt did for a living? Well, I don't recall. I think she worked in an office. I think she was a stenographer or something like that, but I'm not sure. I can't recall. In this particular case, though, Sanger Rainsford recalled the conversation he'd had with Whitney, and Whitney is his companion, which is the person who is with you. In this particular case, I think they're both hunters and they go hunting together, so they are companions to each other. You might describe your best friend as your companion. Your wife or husband would be considered your companion as well.
And sometimes a pet could be your companion too.
Sure.
Right. So in a moment of reflection, Whitney had confessed to feeling a little guilty about their hunting trip. So in that moment, in that instant, Whitney, he felt really bad about what just happened. So he confessed. He had to tell the truth and really tell what he was feeling. He felt that he was feeling really guilty. He was feeling bad about their hunting trip.
I feel a little bad. I feel guilty about what we've done during this hunting trip. And Rainsford, who was more practical, had countered bluntly, the world is made up of two classes, the hunters and the huntees. Luckily, you and I are hunters. So yes, indeed, he was quite practical, and he's a hunter, and he realizes that, hey, we're the hunters here. You don't need to feel guilty because that's the way things are. That's the way God created the earth. Some people have the power, some don't. Animals don't have the power, we do, so we can kill them. It's okay. The animals are for us. And so indeed, he countered Whitney's feelings of guilt. Okay, so if you counter, that means you disagree and you have the opposite opinion. And bluntly means in a blunt way. And to be blunt means to be direct. You don't beat around the bush. You come straight to the point, even if you might hurt someone's feelings.
Right. And hunties in this case is the one that is being hunted by the hunters. They are the prey to the predators. So the hunters are going to hunt the prey, okay? And Sanger Rainsford says, luckily, you and I are hunters. So this is also kind of hinting that he's saying we are on the top of the food chain, okay? We're not the ones that are going to be hunted. We are the ones that hunt.
Exactly. So maybe Whitney was feeling guilty when he shot that tiger, and the tiger looked at him with these sad eyes, and Whitney was, oh, I feel so bad for killing that sweet, kind animal. But then Rainsford said, don't worry about it. We're the hunters. That's what you're supposed to do. Shake it off. Don't worry about it. But unfortunately, these thoughts were interrupted when Rainsford accidentally fell overboard. Overboard means you're no longer on the ship. You've gone over the side of the ship, and you're now in the water. And I don't know if they noticed him falling in the water there because it's dark, and if you fall overboard at night, there's a very good chance that you're not going to be rescued. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's listen now to the second part.
The boat sailed on in the blackness, leaving Rainsford with no choice but to swim to a nearby island. Upon reaching the shore, he came across a large mansion and was ushered inside by its owner, General Zaroff, and his servant Ivan. Over dinner, Zaroff expressed approval of Rainsford's hobby and revealed that he too was a hunter of sorts. Zaroff explained that he had grown tired of big game hunting and now hunted shipwrecked sailors for sport, giving them food, clothing, a knife, and a 3-hour head start before pursuing them with a pistol. So far, none had managed to survive long enough to win their freedom.
最后第二部分我们看到名词 approval， 它的意思是认可、赞许或是同意，像是 Our proposal requires the manager's approval before it can start. 在我们的提案开始进行前，需要先得到经理的同意。也可以说 Laura needs her parents' approval to go to the party.Laura 需要得到她父母的同意才能去那场派对。
Okay, to continue, the boat sailed on in the blackness, leaving Rainsford with no choice but to swim to a nearby island. Luckily, he fell in the ocean near an island, so he was able to swim to it. It was at night, but maybe he saw lights on the shore or something like that. So the boat did not know he had fallen overboard. It kept sailing on, it kept going, and so he had to swim to a nearby island and maybe find a way to be rescued.
Upon reaching the shore, he came across a large mansion and was ushered inside by its owner, General Zaroff, and his servant Ivan. So, after he reached the shore, he swam to the beach side, he swam to land, he saw a large mansion. A mansion is a really big, luxurious house. It's usually a very expensive house, and the rich and famous live in these houses.
Indeed, it's a big mansion, a big house. It's probably surrounded by a huge estate. And so he came across this. He found this large mansion, and he was discovered, and he was ushered inside by its owner, General Zaroff, and his servant Ivan. So here we've got the word usher. An usher usually is somebody who works in a theater and they show you your seat, or they usher you to your seat. They escort you there. They show you the way. So here he was shown inside of the mansion by the owner, General Zaroff, and his servant Ivan. And of course, he had a new guest here, so he was invited to dinner. And over dinner, Zaroff expressed approval of Rainsford's hobby and revealed that he too was a hunter of sorts. So here you've got approval, which means somebody approves of what you do. They think it's okay, they accept it, and they don't disagree with you.
Right. So his approval is really hinting that he likes this hobby of his as well. And actually, he's showed that he actually hunts as well. And here we see that he mentions that he is a hunter of sorts. So of sorts is an idiom which is usually used to describe something that is of a lesser form. So, for example, she made a dress of sorts with a potato sack. So she made a dress, but she didn't use a usual fancy fabric. She used a potato sack to make her dress. So of sorts is really comparing that she did something like normal people, but she used something different to make it or do it differently.
Yep, using a potato sack to make a dress might be a very unique fashion statement. You might get a lot of attention for doing that, but yes, indeed, it is a dress of sorts. And here, Zaroff says that, well, yeah, I'm a hunter of sorts. I'm a kind of a hunter, although we don't really know what kind of animals he hunts. And Zaroff explained that he had grown tired of big game hunting and now hunted shipwrecked sailors for sport, giving them food, clothing, a knife, and a 3-hour head start before pursuing them with a pistol. So this sounds quite extreme. It sounds quite troublesome here because he says, yes, I'm a hunter of sorts, but I actually hunt sailors who were shipwrecked. So that sounds kind of sick. The guy's mentally ill here, but I guess he's a rich guy and rich people can do whatever they want to. He hunts shipwrecked sailors. They must have a lot of those on this island. A sailor, of course, is someone who works on a boat. And if you're shipwrecked, that means your boat has crashed ashore and you can't leave, or maybe in the case of Rainsford, you fell overboard and had to swim ashore, so you are shipwrecked. And he hunts them for sport, for fun, for activity. And then, of course, he has some conditions here. He gives those hunted sailors some food, some clothing, and a knife to defend themselves. And then he gives them a 3-hour head start. If you give someone a head start, you let them go first because maybe you're better than they are and you think that it would be more fair if you let them go first, so you give them a head start. If you're going to have, say, a 100-meter race with your little brother who's only 5 years old and you're already 15, well, you might give him a head start. Let him start running maybe for 20 or 30 seconds, and then you start running to see if you can catch him.
Right, and a head start is you're just really giving somebody else an advantage so that they could have a better chance to do better than you, or a better chance to have a better result for them. And so after he's given them a 3-hour head start, he starts pursuing them. He starts chasing them with a pistol, which is really interesting because you don't usually hunt with a pistol. A pistol is a smaller type of gun. It's a handgun. So usually when you hunt, you use shotgun. And those are bigger, so you have more distance. But if you use a pistol, that means you have to be really close to your victim or your prey.
Right, it's more of a challenge to hunt somebody with a pistol or to hunt an animal with a pistol. I had a friend back in high school who hunted deer with a bow and arrow. He was never successful because the deer always could hear the string snap and were able to run away. But yeah, when you hunt, usually you use shotgun or a rifle or something like that, but seldom with a pistol. And so far, though, none had managed to survive long enough to win their freedom. So even though he was hunting them with a pistol, and even though he gave them a 3-hour head start, he still managed to slay them all. None of those hunted sailors were able to survive. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's move on now to the third and final part for today.
Shocked at this revelation, Rainsford demanded to leave the island, but Zaroff refused. He had just set his sights on a more challenging prey, Rainsford.
Okay, so this is quite shocking. If somebody tells you that they actually hunt people for fun or for sport, you might be shocked. And Rainsford was shocked at this revelation, so he demanded to leave the island, but Zaroff refused. A revelation is just when somebody reveals something to you. They tell you some information that was hidden to you before, and so it's a revelation. It's some very important information that you did not know about. You might have a revelation about a friend of yours. Oh, I had a revelation about my friend Ken. I never knew that his parents were multimillionaires. I did not know that. It's a revelation.
Right. And after Zaroff refused, he realized he had just set his sights on a more challenging prey, Rainsford. So after getting to know Rainsford, Zaroff had realized that this guy, Rainsford, he's a hunter too. This is going to make a really interesting prey. So he set his sights on. So when you set your sight on something, it means that you've become really focused on this. You've become really obsessed with this thing. So you really want to do something. You have a specific goal in mind. So you really set your mind, or you set your sights on this because all you see is this goal. So right now, his mind is set on catching Rainsford.
Right, but you have to tune into our program next time to find out how the hunt went and whether the victim was hunted or whether the hunter himself was victimized. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation. Hanny would like to talk to you now.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。在课文第一部分 Rainsford 有说一句 The world is made up of two classes, the hunters and the huntees. 这个世界是由两个阶级组成，狩猎者和被狩猎者。那么 huntee 字尾是一结尾呢，它是用来表达被狩猎者或者是猎物的意思。好，那这边要介绍的片语是 make up， 它在文中是表达组成构成。那我们来看看主动的用法呢，就是用部分 make up 整体。那么被动用法也就是文中的用法，你就是用整体当主词 be made up of 再加部分。举例来说 The book is made up of 10 chapters， 那本书是由10个章节组成的。好，那顺便补充其他表达这种组成构成的方式哦。第一个，我们可以用动词 compose 去表达组成构成，那它的用法跟 make up 相同，同样就有分成主动句型和被动句型。那所以我们就可以用部分 compose 整体，或者是整体 be composed of 加上部分。好，那第二个呢，可以用到 consist of 来表达。那它的用法是整体加上 consist of 再加部分。要特别注意啊，它不能用被动语态表示哦。所以我们来看个例句 The band consists of 5 talented musicians。 那个乐团是由5位很有才华的乐手组成的。好，那么第三个，我们可以用 comprise 这个动词来表达。那它的句型有2种。第一个，你可以用整体comprise 或者是 be comprised of 加上部分，或者是你可以用部分加上 comprise 加整体。例如 The album comprises 10 tracks 就可以表达那张专辑是由10首歌组成的。好，再来课文第二部分第一句写到，那艘船在黑暗中继续航行。Rainsford 别无选择，只能游到附近的一个岛上。文中是用 leave somebody with no choice but to 再加原形动词这样的句型去表达让某人除了点点点之外别无选择。好，leave 在这边呢不是离开哦，而是让什么什么处于某种情况啊或是状态的意思。那么 leave somebody with no choice 你也可以说 leave somebody with no option 就是说让某人没有选择。然后呢后面接 but 加上不定词 to v 就表示除了做某事之外。 but 在这边是除了什么什么之外的意思。好，那我们也补充2个意思相近的句型。第一个，你可以用 have no choice but to 再加原形动词，就可以表达不得不怎么样，除了什么之外别无选择，只能怎么样怎么样。例如 We had no choice but to take a taxi home 我们别无选择，只能搭计程车回家了。第二个是 can do nothing but 加上原形动词，这表示除了点点点什么都不能做，那常常用来表达无计可施而只能怎么样的情况。那特别注意这边 but 后面是接原形动词，例如 we can do nothing but wait 也就是我们除了等待什么都不能做。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Peter peered through the window into the darkness outside. Recall. No matter how hard she tried, Bonnie couldn't recall where she'd left her keys. Companion. Archie and Greg have been close companions for many years. Confess. After they had wandered around a while, Carrie confessed to Tom that she had gotten them lost. Counter. Daryl had to admit that he couldn't counter Matt's arguments effectively. Mansion. The famous actor just bought a large mansion with a swimming pool. Usher. Mrs. Drake ushered her party guests into the dining room. Approval. Shane always seems eager to earn his father's approval.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Kiki. See you next time.